In order to avoid this war with Pakistan, we went to the Security Council.
What happens when two countries born from the same land become sworn enemies? Not rivals, not competitors, enemies, armed with nukes and decades of rage. India and Pakistan were once part of the same nation, spoke the same languages, shared the same streets, and even celebrated the same festivals. So how did that brotherhood turn into a standoff that could one day end in global catastrophe? This story isn't just about borders or politics. It's about a bloody birth, a brutal past, and a rivalry fueled by fear, faith, and firepower. We'll see why Kashmir, this one stretch of land, is still holding peace hostage over 75 years later. And second, between rising nationalism, terrorism, and nuclear weapons, who actually holds the upper hand today? Let's discuss it in today's episode of Light's History. In 1947, British India pulled off one of the most chaotic breakups in history. After nearly 200 years of colonial rule, the British decided to leave, but not without lighting a fuse on their way out. Their exit plan? Divide the land based on religion. India would stay largely Hindu, and a brand new country, Pakistan, would be created for Muslims. Simple, right? Not even close. Pakistan wasn't just one piece. It was two, East and West Pakistan, awkwardly separated by over 1,000 miles of Indian territory. That's like starting a country on shuffle mode. The man responsible for drawing the border, Sir Cyril Radcliffe, had never even been to India. He was given a map, a pencil, and about 5 weeks to divide 400 million people. The result? A jagged line that sliced through villages, families, and entire communities. Once the border was announced, panic exploded. Over 10 to 15 million people scrambled to cross into what they hoped was the right country for their religion. Muslims rushed to Pakistan, while Hindus and Sikhs fled to India. But the migration was anything but peaceful. It was the largest mass migration in human history, and it came with an unimaginable cost. Over 1 million people were killed in brutal riots, ambushes, and massacres. Entire trains of refugees arrived at stations with no one alive. Communities that had lived side by side for centuries turned on each other in a frenzy of fear and revenge. It wasn't just a partition of land, it was a partition of hearts, trust, and shared history. The wounds ran deep, and they never really healed. From day one, India and Pakistan weren't just neighbors, they were bitter exes with a lot of emotional baggage and nuclear weapons in the future. This wasn't a clean split. It was violent, tragic, and set the stage for decades of mistrust, tension, and war. Enter the Kashmir dispute. Before we move on to the next section, please don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video so far. Barely a few months after partition, when India and Pakistan were still figuring out how to function as countries, they were already at war because of Kashmir. Back in 1947, Kashmir had a Muslim majority population, but it was ruled by a Hindu prince named Maharaja Hari Singh. When asked which side he wanted to join, India or Pakistan, he basically said, "I'll stay single, thanks." But then Pakistani tribal militias started invading, and the Maharaja freaked out. In desperation, he signed an agreement to join India in exchange for military help. Boom! India sent troops, Pakistan cried foul, and just like that, we had the first India-Pakistan war. This wasn't just a one-time scuffle. It set the stage for what would become one of the world's most stubborn and dangerous territorial disputes. The 1947-48 war ended with a UN-brokered ceasefire, and a line of control, the LOC, was drawn. India ended up with about 2/3 of Kashmir, and Pakistan got the rest. But here's the kicker. Nobody was happy. Both claimed the whole region as their own, and surprise, surprise, things didn't calm down. Fast forward, and we get not one, not two, but 3 more wars between the two countries in 1965, 1971, and again in 1999. And while not all of them were directly about Kashmir, the region remained the emotional and political spark plug. Today, Kashmir is split 3 ways. India controls the largest portion, including the prized Kashmir Valley, Pakistan holds what it calls Azad Kashmir, and China, never one to miss a land grab, quietly took a slice in the 1962 Sino-Indian War and holds the Aksai Chin region. So now we've got three countries, one frozen conflict, and millions of people living in the crossfire. The result? A geopolitical standoff that's lasted over 7 decades, with nuclear tension just simmering in the background. By the late 90s, India and Pakistan had already fought multiple wars, argued over every inch of Kashmir, and basically treated their border like a never-ending boxing ring. But in 1998, they decided to raise the stakes, from punches to nukes. India conducted 5 underground nuclear tests in May that year, and just 2 weeks later, Pakistan fired back with 6 of its own. It was like two neighbors deciding, you know what this feud needs? Weapons of mass destruction. Suddenly, the whole world got very nervous, because now these weren't just two angry neighbors throwing rocks over the fence. They had nukes and lots of bad blood. Since then, every little skirmish has come with the underlying threat of global doom. Take 1999, for example. Just 1 year after both countries announced their nuclear status, Pakistani soldiers disguised as militants crossed the line of control and occupied mountain peaks near the town of Kargil in Indian-controlled Kashmir. India launched a full-scale military response. It was high-altitude warfare at its coldest, with thousands of troops clashing at elevations over 16,000 feet. Over 1,000 people died, and for a terrifying moment the world held its breath, because nobody knew how far it would escalate. Fast forward to 2019, and things got spicy again. A suicide bombing killed 40 Indian paramilitary troops in Pulwama, Kashmir. India blamed a Pakistan-based militant group and responded with an airstrike deep inside Pakistani territory. Pakistan retaliated with its own air force, and the two countries' fighter jets clashed. One Indian pilot, Wing Commander Abhinandan, was shot down and captured. For a day or two, it felt like war was just one bad tweet away. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed, and the pilot was returned. But the fact remains. Two nuclear powers with a history of 4 wars, daily border clashes, and zero chill are just one miscalculation away from turning a decades-long rivalry into a global disaster. These tensions persist to this day, and their differences remain. When you stack them side by side, India and Pakistan look like a heavyweight and a scrappy underdog. India's got a population of over 1.4 billion, basically 1 in 6 people on Earth, and a GDP of around $3.7 trillion as of 2024. Pakistan, on the other hand, has about 240 million people and a GDP that's roughly $370 billion. That's about the size of India's budget for chai. Okay, not really, but you get the idea. On the military front, India fields about 1.45 million active personnel, while Pakistan has around 650,000. That's more than respectable, but still a smaller force. Now here's where it gets interesting. Despite being the smaller economy, Pakistan actually has more nuclear warheads, about 170 to India's 160. India, meanwhile, is flexing in tech, space, and software. Its IT sector is a global powerhouse, exporting code and engineers everywhere. Pakistan's tech scene? Growing, but still heavily dependent on imports and foreign investment. The gap here is wide. Think Silicon Valley versus a decent neighborhood internet cafe. Still, Pakistan's strategic relationship with China gives it some extra weight. With Beijing backing it economically and militarily, Pakistan's not exactly fighting solo. So yes, India dominates on paper, but Pakistan plays the game with sharper nerves, a nuclear safety net, and some help from its big, powerful friend next door. At the heart of the India-Pakistan rivalry is more than just land or power. It's about identity. India was founded as a secular republic, home to every religion under the sun. But in recent years, Hindu nationalism has gained serious political traction. You'll hear slogans like Hindutva echoing in rallies, and some politicians treat secularism more like a forgotten password than a guiding principle. Meanwhile, Pakistan was born as an Islamic republic, and religion is baked right into its constitution, political discourse, and even its laws. The military and clerics play a huge role in shaping national policy, and for many Pakistanis, Islam is not just a faith, it's part of the national glue. This ideological divide isn't just internal. Both countries have learned that nothing unites people like a good old-fashioned external threat. Leaders on both sides often use enmity as political fuel. Populism thrives when there's a villain next door. Why talk about inflation when you can talk about invasion? And then there's Kashmir, the elephant in the room that never leaves. Add to that terrorism with India accusing Pakistan of harboring and supporting militant groups, and you get a perfect storm of suspicion. Trust? Long gone. Every attempt at peace is quickly drowned in border skirmishes, media outrage, or political chest-thumping. So do you think India and Pakistan will ever see eye to eye, or will they remain bitter rivals? Let us know in the comments below. Here's another video history buffs enjoyed watching. Bye for now.